Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the podcast brought to you by Censis Technologies. I'm your host, Tyler Kern. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the show. Now, as everyone I'm sure is aware, a new year is upon us, and this is a time when a lot of people like to make New Year's resolutions and make some promises for what they're going to do in the upcoming year. So today, what you're going to get are resolutions for 2022 and an explanation for how Censis can help you get there and reach some of these resolutions. And so joining me today is Jill Sweeney. She is a clinical educator at CensiTracquality. Jill, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on, Jill, especially at this special time of year when we talk about New Year's resolutions. And so we have several New Year's resolutions that we're going to provide for people here today and explain how Censis can help them reach those resolutions. So the first resolution we have is to lose weight. Tell us a little bit more about that and what that means as it pertains to Censis and as it pertains to some of your customers and clients.
All right. Well, that's everybody's number one resolution, usually at the beginning of the year. SPD has, you can use that resolution also. But the weight goals are a little bit different, but equally as important, if not more important, related to SPD. Running an overloaded sterilizer, having overweight trays, problems that can cause your SPD department. You can end up with loads. You can end up with failed biologicals, just all around poor sterilizer performance. So the max weight allowance for each machine can be found in your sterilizer's IFU. In CensiTrack, you can go in, you can enter in that max weight allowance. So maybe it's 400 pounds. The max weight allowance for each machine can be found in your sterilizer IFU. You can enter in that max weight allowance towards as the first step towards your sterilizer compliance. And then CensiTrack will then tally up those trays as you're starting those loads. It'll tally up what those trays weigh so that you make sure that your sterilizer always stays under that weight limit. The next important step to get that sterilizer in compliance is going to be to have those weights attached to those trays. You're going to go into your container inventory in CensiTrack. You're going to enter those weights into those trays, and then you're going to, as you're building those sterilizer loads, that CensiTrack is going to tally up the total amount that's going to be on those in that sterilizer load to ensure that you're staying in compliance. There's several different places that you can enter those weights in. One of the easiest ways, a place to get started, is in settings. If you go into settings, you can put your default container weights for all containers and peel packs. That's not going to be a specific number, but at least it's something, and it's a good place to start off if you don't have any weights at all for your containers. The next place that you can go specifically into that container type. Like I had mentioned before, in that container type, you can, for each specific container, you can add that weight in there. One of the largest problems that come in with heavy trays is the loaner. So you can go into that loaner module. As you're creating those loaner cases, there's a field right there that you can, as you're bringing those trays in, you can put the weight right in on that tray. A great place to have a scale is at your loaner check-in station so that you can enter those weights into that loaner module as you're checking those things in. For reports, you can go into your container general information. You can use your filters to identify any trays that need weights for that, and then you can achieve that your number one New Year's goal of being aware of your weights and staying in compliance with your sterilizers.
Excellent stuff, and a great explanation there on the capabilities of CensiTrack to help you with this resolution. Let's move on to resolution number 2, and this is one that cuts really close to home for me, and that is spend less money. So tell us about spending less money and how that relates in the SPD settings and how CensiTrack can be beneficial.
All right. So, right up there at the top of your resolution list is going to be to save more money, to spend less money. CensiTrack, also budget friendly, tries to help you achieve those goals. There's many different ways that you can achieve those goals in CensiTrack, but one of the best ways is to use the maintenance program. Using that maintenance program, you can set in maintenance uses for the trays, and then CensiTrack will alert you when those trays are in need of routine sharpening. You can keep track of when those containers have been sharpened, and you're making sure that those containers are being sharpened in a routine basis, that you're not spending extra money when not needed for trays that don't really need sharpening. You're able to put in the number of uses for your trays. So by tracking the number of uses that those trays have been done versus the number of months, which a lot of facilities, they'll just be like, every 3 months, I'm going to send out such and such a tray for sharpening. Well, maybe that tray gets buried somewhere in inventory and that tray only gets used 1 or 2 times. It probably doesn't need to be sharpened despite it hasn't been out for 3 months. So CensiTrack allows you to put in by uses. Every time that tray hits that sterilizer, that'll add on another use. And then once it gets to whatever your allocated number of uses is, maybe it's 30 uses, then there's different reports that you can run to let you know what trays are ready to go. Things that, to help you with the efficiency of your department. There's 3 different reports that you can use for your maintenance. The maintenance due. That way you're never caught like, oh my goodness, the sharpening crew is going to be here tomorrow and I don't know what trays to pull. Just pull whatever trays. You can set up that report to be emailed to you automatically, maybe a few days before they show up. So then you can always have the trays that are most in need of sharpening, have them ready to go and ready to send out. Maintenance and progress, that's another report that's available, and that'll allow you'll know the location. If they call looking for the OR calls looking for a tray, oh, that tray's out for sharpening right now, it'll be back tomorrow. Also maintenance history, you can look and know when the maintenance was last performed on that tray. So if Dr. Smith wants to know his set isn't sharp enough, you can go back to the history, see when it was last sharpened, and maybe it needs to be adjusted. Maybe it's set for 30 uses, maybe he needs it sharpened every 20 uses. So then you can address issues right away that come up with that, with the making sure that your set is always in good condition and exactly how the OR needs it. To add those maintenance uses, again, you're going to go into your container inventory type. You're going to go edit container type, and you go midway down the page. It's going to be in there, a place where you can put in that maintenance use. And then that counter will appear in the inventory. It'll tell you how many uses it's on, maybe 3 of 30 or whatever. And then once that hits that number of uses, if it's 30 of 30 uses, in container assembly, staff will receive a notification that this tray is due for maintenance. It's on use of 31 of 30. It'll still let them continue with that container, but it will give them that notification so they know, okay, this tray is ready for maintenance as well.
Excellent stuff, Jill. Yeah, that's some great tips when it comes to spending less money, something that all of us could use a lesson on. The third resolution for this year is clean your house. Tell us what that means and how CensiTrack is beneficial in this area.
So CensiTrack can also help you keep track of what things are being done and making sure that the routine tasks are being done and that staff are being given credit for those routine tasks. A lot of times in sterile processing, staff are doing a lot of things that are outside the realm of what CensiTrack gives credit for in productivity. So efficiency tasks help is one of the modules, and that'll help give credit to staff for things that they're doing outside the realm of what CensiTrack normally gives the productivity credit for. So some facilities that I've been at, things they use efficiency tasks for, they use it for rounds. Some places they'll have, they'll go out, they'll pick up dirty instruments, they'll drop off clean instruments, and they spend quite a bit of time going out and doing rounds. Stocking chemicals, that's something that a lot of places do, that they'll, spend a fair amount of time doing. Maybe they're responding to the OR calls, they can't find something, they need something brought up to them. All of that takes time, and efficiency tasks are things that can give credit for doing all of those things. This is a reportable module, so anything that you do in using that efficiency task, you can verify that those tasks have been done. Some facilities use that for eye wash station checks. That's something that you have a paper log for, and maybe you'll use that efficiency task. They'll just scan that efficiency task that they checked the eye wash station and it passed. And then you can keep track of, okay, it was done weekly, and this is the person that did it, and this was the time that it was done. You can also use this information to report to the upper level management, who are, trying to justify positions. And, if they're, you have a staff member leave and you want to replace that person, they may say, well, we don't think you're sterilizing enough containers and peel packs to justify another position. Well, this efficiency task captures all those other things that you spend a lot of your day doing, and it'll give, you can use that to help to verify tasks that are being done by your team. To create your efficiency task as a customizable list, you're going to go into your main menu to admin and then to efficiency tasks. You can put whatever you want on that list, whatever is specific to your facility's needs. And then there's a barcode sheet that you're going to print out from that. And that barcode sheet it's super easy. The staff just scan the barcode that they're doing the task for, and then scan their badge if they need to, and then they're on their way. So it's super fast and easy to capture that information and then to give credit for all the tasks that your staff do throughout the day.
Excellent stuff. Very, very good. There on resolution number 3, cleaning your house. Now let's move on to the 4th resolution, probably the one that my wife would say I need to improve at the most. But we're not talking about me. We're talking about SPD settings. And so this is be a better communicator. Tell us about that, Jill.
Okay, well, maybe we can get your wife set up with some quality feedback is the module that we're going to talk about. So let me know if she needs some, we can set her up too. The best way to prevent errors from happening and from repeating in the future, acknowledge and respond to them as they happen immediately. So Amy Standard 79, again, speaks to quality process improvement, and the best CensiTrack tool for this is quality feedback. You can use this to address a myriad of issues, like back in decon, some of the common issues in decontam that they address, inadequate pre-treating at the point of use, sharps in the dirty tray, excessive bioburden on the trays that come down, anything like that. They can capture that information, and then that information, then a notification will get generated to the leadership that are going to follow up on that, and then they can go ahead and follow up as needed. A way to improve your communication with your perioperative department is to get the OR involved in this. They can also, if they have a barcode scanner, they can report missing filters, they can report holes in their blue wrap, they can report no indicators in their trays, any problems with missing instruments, anything like that. They can they can quickly and easily report that information so that the SPD manager can follow up on that, and then all the problems can get resolved in a more efficient manner. So there's 2 different ways to create those quality feedback events. There's the long form, as I like to call it, and that's going to be in the workflow and the quality feedback module. You can go in there. It's very detailed. You can write out a little story about whatever the problem was, and you're able to attach pictures to it. So if you have a picture of something that you want to attach to it for reference back on, you can do that in that module. There's also a barcode sheet that you can use when you're back in decontam. It's not easy to go in, fill out that long form, and when you got all your double gloves and you've got your face shield and all that. So going and using that barcode sheet, it's a quick, it's a location scan. Basically, you're going to scan that barcode sheet. So say if you have a sharp in the tray, you'll scan that barcode for sharp in the tray. You'll scan your asset, whatever, maybe it's a minor tray. You'll scan that, and then you'll scan that barcode sheet. That'll generate that quality event notification. It'll go to leadership, and then they can follow up on it as necessary. Most leaders always have or prefer to have these set up as an exception report, and they'll email to them automatically as soon as a quality event is brought to light. And then they can follow up on it right away so that they can address those problems and keep those lines of communication going between the OR and the SPD department.
Very, very good stuff. Very good stuff. All right, that is being a better communicator. Okay, coming up next, we are talking about being more environmentally friendly. I think a very, very admirable goal and a very admirable resolution for 2022 as we step into the new year. Tell us how we can be more environmentally friendly, Jill.
It's never too early to start setting goals for the next year, right? Make your 2022 motto for your department be paper-free by 2023. CensiTrack, with using CensiTrack, it provides a complete electronic record storage. So the disadvantages of keeping paper records, first of all, your staff have to do duplicate work. So they're doing work in CensiTrack, capturing that information in CensiTrack, capturing their loads, resulting their loads, doing all of that. But then they're also doing duplicate work on paper. They're keeping paper receipts, they're filling out paperwork and doing all that. So the duplicate work, nobody wants to do duplicate work. Storage fees. Most facilities don't have room for boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff. So a lot of places are paying for offsite storage. So all of that paperwork that you accumulate throughout the year, that gets boxed up, and then it gets sent to some place to be stored, and eventually goes to some storage facility, and it has to be kept for a number of years. So if you're able to eliminate that, you're able to save those storage fees and save the hassle of having to box all that stuff up and get rid of it. So if maybe 2 years down the road, some sort of issue arises and you're like, oh, I need to pull those records from that. In CensiTrack, you can go in, and if you have the load number, you can instantly pull that up, and you'll have a complete record related to that, related to the sterilization records, the parameters, the biological information, a complete record related to that. So if you have an offsite storage location and you have to go traipse into that storage location, find that box, dig through the box, it's quite a production. So it's much easier. Sit down at your computer, look it up, and you're all set to go. So also, when you have visitors in the department, Joint Commission comes to visit, you have mock auditors, you have surveyors, anything like that. A lot of times they ask you about your sterilization records. They may go digging through a shelf and pull off a load sticker and be like, okay, tell me how you know that this item is sterile based on this load number. Again, if you don't have those records at hand, you're going to spend quite a bit of time fumbling around trying to get that information. If you can go into CensiTrack, enter that load number into your load results, you can instantly have all that information at your fingertips. So in order to get to the point of being paper-free, we always recommend that everybody does quality auditing on all their loads. We recommend to do that on a daily basis. So maybe at the end of the day or at the beginning of the next day, you look at the previous day's loads, make sure that all the receipts are scanned in, make sure that the biologicals have all been resulted properly, make sure that the cycle information and the pass-fail is in there. And once all that information's in there, you can toss all that paperwork because everything's complete in CensiTrack. You have that complete record. So one good suggestion that when I'm on site doing training, I'll suggest that people make up a sign like 42 days with no sterilization errors. Hang that up and just keep a countdown or a count up going on. And as you know, if they can tell their staff, if they can get to 180 days, then they can go paper free at that point. That'll, encourage staff to work towards keeping their records in compliance. And, with the, luring them with the promise of less work for you altogether, because you don't have to do all that duplicate work.
I love that. Paper free by 2023, and some good incentives there as well. Excellent stuff, Jill. So this brings us to our final resolution here for 2022, and that is learning a new skill. Something I think that is really important. Continuing education, obviously, important for everyone. But tell us about this as it relates to SPD, Jill, as our final resolution of 2022.
Of all the facilities that I go to every year, there is not one facility that is using all aspects of CensiTrack. CensiTrack is very complex, and there's so many different aspects to using the CensiTrack. So I think that all facilities could benefit by going through and trying to learn, about the different modules that are available to them, and start using different modules that would help them out in the future. So when I'm on site, some of the facilities that aren't, that some of the modules that don't get used as often, the OR scheduler, it's a great thing to keep track of the cases that are going on. You can see those cases. You can use that for your case tracking to tie all those trays back to the procedures, for any future referencing that you need to do related to what trays were used on what patient and what procedure. PAR levels, if you have a lot of clinics, maybe PAR levels would be a great module for you to use in order to make sure that, your clinics have the necessary instruments that they need. If they need to have always, 10 Kelly clamps at their facility, you can make sure using that PAR level module that they have those at all times. Competencies. Going back to our previous resolution about being paper-free, competencies, places have binders and binders full of paper for competencies. So you can do competencies in CensiTrack, and that's a great way to both cut down on paper and to use another aspect of that. Container check, if staff want to use that to maybe when stuff is coming back into decontam, they can look and make sure that those trays are complete returning, or maybe up in the ORs, they want to, you do container check to make sure that those count sheets are correct, and they can look at that count sheet in CensiTrack right there. The equipment module, if they keep track of pumps or anything like that, they can use the equipment module to do that. There's a lot of different ways to, people are like, well, where do I even start learning about these additional modules? The first thing that I always recommend, play around in CensiTrack. Just look around and see what there is. You can't break anything in CensiTrack. Even if you tried, you can't delete anything. So go through your CensiTrack and look around and see what there is, and see whatever you can do. If you have questions about something, in the upper right-hand corner of every screen in CensiTrack, there's a question mark. Whatever screen you're on, if you want to learn more about competencies, go to that competency screen, hit that question mark, and it's going to be a super detailed integrated help guide specific to competencies. So whatever screen you're on, that question mark will give you a help guide related to that. If you need additional help, you have additional questions, the help desk is available from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And they're also available 24 hours a day for work stoppage. So call the help desk. They're super helpful, and they can help you out with whatever you need. Your client manager, every site is assigned a client manager, and that client manager is always a call or an email away. Give them a shout, and they can help you out with whatever you need. Sometimes you don't even know what you're missing out on. You don't know what you don't know. So one of the best ways to identify and implement a new module and to help your facility specific needs is to get a Service Plus subscription. The Service Plus subscription is an annual assessment. It's done by one of our rock star clinical educators like myself. And we come on site and we go through all aspects of your system. And then we make recommendations of how you can better utilize that system and modules that you're not using, and how you can start using that. So, that Service Plus thing is a great tool. It includes 32 hours of on-site training for your staff annually. So, that's something that we would always recommend to use those clinical educators to get that information and be able to make the most of your CensiTrack subscription.
Well, that was fantastic stuff. Just making sure that you get the most out of your CensiTrack subscription. I think that's fantastic and a great way to wrap up our conversation here today. 6 resolutions for 2022. Jill, thank you so much for joining us and sharing these resolutions and sharing a little bit more about how people can get the most out of CensiTrack in 2022 and improve their overall SPD operations. Thank you again so much for joining us.
Okay, well, thank you.
Absolutely. And everyone, thank you for tuning into this episode of the podcast. We appreciate having you along very, very much. Of course, stay tuned for upcoming episodes of the show. We'll be back with more very, very shortly. You can also visit the Censis website for more. But for today's episode, for my guest today, Jill Sweeney, I've been your host, Tyler Kern. Thanks for joining us.